Hello guys, very good morning, good afternoon, good evening all of you. Hope you guys are doing well. So in our previous class we have done till chapter 3. We have covered all the provisions with respect to whatever is there on input tax credit as well as the computation of GST liability. So in this class we would be starting with chapter 4 guys, which talks about the procedural compliance under GST. See, in this chapter there are various contents covered or various topics covered, like the registration, returns, invoices or debit note, credit note, and also payment topics. So there are various topics covered under this chapter. So what I have done is I have divided into different parts guys, like chapter 4.1, 4.2, 4.3. I have done it for each type of topics. So this chapter is a bit lengthy but important from exam point of view guys. On each of the topic, like I told you, there are 4 to 5 topics which you would be learning in this chapter. On each and every topic, the question are asked in the exams, which would be discussing once we cover the provisions under each chapter. Is that clear? So the first part which would be starting here is the unit 1, that is chapter 4.1, which talks about the registration. So we will be doing registration today. So now under GST, sir, is registration required? What is the use of it? And is it mandatory for a person to get registered? Yes. There are provisions which tells section 22, 23 and 24 specifies who should get registered or who should not get registered. So if you are a person for whom registration is applicable, then it is mandatory for you to get registered. There is some time limit also given. Within that time limit, you have to get registered. You have to get registered or else you will be levied a penalty and all. Now, even if you want to claim input tax credit on your inward supply, registration is mandatory. As per section 16, we have already seen, as a recipient, if you want to claim the credit of your input tax, whatever you have paid, registration is must. Means an unregistered person cannot claim input tax credit. So if you want to claim credit of whatever input tax you have paid on your inward supply, you have to be registered under GST. Okay. And once a person is registered under GST, on his outward supply, whatever he provides, he is liable to pay tax. He is liable to pay tax on it and he is eligible to collect it from the recipient and give it to the government. If he fails to do so, then the supplier has to pay it out of his pocket. Yeah. So what we would be understanding in this chapter is who should get registered. Who should get registered? That is means that is dealt in section 22, 23 and 24 of CGST Act. Then once we know, okay, who should get registered, next step is how to get registered. That is given in section 25. That is given in section 25. Then there are some other sections like amendment, cancellation of registration or deemed registration and all, which we would be covering later. So our today's agenda is to cover 3 sections. First, we will be covering section 22, 23 and 24 of CGST Act. Then if possible, we will also try to cover section 25 guys. Clear? So registration topic is covered in section 22 to section 30 of CGST Act, which is same applicable under IGST Act also. Means whatever registration provisions we learn is same. It is same for both intrastate supply, whether it is an interstate supply. So if a person is supposed to get registered, means he will get registered. Whether he is providing intrastate supply, interstate supply, that is secondary. He will get registered under GST. So how to get registered, who should get registered is given in section 22 to 30 of CGST Act. As it is applicable under IGST Act also. Section 20 of IGST Act has told whatever provisions are covered in CGST Act with respect to registration, same thing is applicable here. Clear? Yes, sir. Chalo guys, we'll start with registration of any business entity under GST law implies obtaining a unique number from the concerned tax authorities for the purpose of collecting tax on behalf of the government and to avail input tax credit for the taxes on his inward supply. Means if you are a person who is applying for registration, once a registration is granted for you, you will be allotted a unique number called GSTIN, GST identification number. Clear? So wherever you are paying tax or whenever you are collecting tax from the recipients and all, everywhere you have to code this number. This is a unique number for you under GST. This is a unique number for you under GST. Okay. Registration is mandatory at every place of business from where a taxable supply has been made. Now, if I am supposed to get registered under GST, I have to get registration for every place from wherever I am supplying the goods or services, especially for every state. So under GST, the registration is state-wise and PAN based. For example, sir, I am having operations in 10 different states in India. How many registrations I have to get? If I am a person who is supposed to get registration, then minimum 10 registration I have to get. That is for each state, one registration. Now within Karnataka, I have 2-3 branches or 5 branches. How many registration should I get? One registration is mandatory. If you want, you can also get multiple registration within the state, but it is optional for you. We call it as business vertical. Assume in Karnataka itself, I am having 3-4 businesses or 3-4 branches. In that case, is it enough if I get one registration? Yes, more than enough. But if you want, you will be allotted or given different registrations also. For each and every branch, you can obtain separate registration, or for each and every business, you can take separate registration. But if you take separate registration, then that will be treated as distinct person. And if you transfer anything from one branch to another branch, it will be a supply. It will be a supply as per Schedule 1, even without consideration. Clear? Because whenever you have obtained separate registration, whether within the state or outside the state, anything you supply between them is called supply between distinct person. Even without consideration, it will be treated as supply, guys, as per para 2. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Chalo. Now, the registration under GST is PAN based. That is, your registration will be granted based on your PAN. Okay. And state specific. That is, you have to get registration for each and every state in whichever you are operating. GST identification number is a 15-digit number. Okay. It is a 15-digit number. Just a second. It is a 15-digit number, and a certificate of registration incorporating the GSTN is made available to the applicant upon registration. That is, whenever a person is liable for registration, he has to apply for registration. And after the due verification by the proper officer, he will allot a registration certificate for you. In that registration certificate, for you, a unique number will be allotted, which is called GSTIN, guys. GSTIN, which will be a 15-digit number. What it consists, what 15-digit stands for is given here. The first 2 digits of this number will represent the state code. So out of 15 digits, the first 2 digits will represent the state code, that is in which state you have taken the registration. Okay. The next 10 digit will be same as your PAN number. So PAN will have 10 numbers. So 10 number or alphanumeric anything. So the next 10 digits will be your PAN, what as it is. Okay. Next, the 13th digit will be assigned based on the number of registration within the state. Now, if you have taken only one registration within Karnataka, the 13th digit will be 1. If you have taken 3 registration within Karnataka, the 13th digit will be 3, something like that. Clear? Because there are people who will take multiple registration even within the state. If they are having business vertical, means different businesses or different branches and all. Then, but I think somewhere I feel it will be a disadvantage for you also, because if you take different registration within state, that will be treated as distinct person, and anything you supply from one branch to another branch will be a supply, and you will end up paying tax on it. Next, the 14 and the value of that supply will be calculated as per the valuation rules, which we have learned in value of supply chapter, guys. If there is any supply between related person or distinct person. Okay, next we'll continue. The 14 digit will be Z by default, so it will be Z for everyone. The last digit will be check code. The check code means to detect the errors, there will be a check code. So that is the last digit in our GSTIN. Next, registration under GST is not tax specific, which means that there is single registration for all the taxes, that is CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST and cesses. Sir, should I take separate registration under each and every GST like CGST, SGST? No. If you just take the registration under the respective state, it is understood that you are registered under GST. No separate registration is required for CGST, SGST, IGST and all, guys. So registration is state wise now. So wherever you are having your business, in that respective state, apply for registration and get it done. That's all. It's understood. Once your registration is granted, it is understood that you are registered under GST. Yeah. Yes. relevant definitions. So some important definitions are relevant for this chapter. So whatever is important, I would be covering it now itself, because we use these terms when we go to the law, when we are studying whatever the provisions, we will go through these terms. So it is good if you know these terms, what exactly it means before we study that provisions. So that is why I have included the definitions at the beginning itself. So what is it? Aggregate turnover. Very important definitions, guys. Not only for this chapter, we have also seen aggregate turnover where composition scheme. Even for composition scheme, we have seen aggregate turnover definition. Agree? Yes. What is it? We will see. Aggregate turnover as per section 2 clause 6 of CGST Act. Aggregate turnover means the aggregate value of all taxable supplies excluding the value of inward supplies on which tax is payable on reverse charge basis. So only outward supplies should be taken. So for a supplier, whenever there is only an outward supply, taxable outward supply, we have to take. So for a recipient, if he is paying tax on his inward supply under under reverse charge mechanism, should we count it as aggregate turnover? No, you should not. Next, exempt supply. And you know what is exempt supply? Exempt supply is defined under section 2 clause 47. Exempt supply includes three things, guys. Come on, what are those? Exempt supply, whatever is been exempt under section 11 or 6 of IGST Act, and nil rated supply and non-taxable supply. Clear? Yes. So even exempt supply should be included in aggregate turnover definition. Next, export of goods or services or both. We call it as zero rated supplies. Even that should be included. And zero rated supply includes two things. What are those, guys? Come on. Export of goods or services outside India plus supply of goods or services to special economic zone unit or special economic zone developer. So zero rated supply includes two things. And what is zero rated supply is covered in section 16 of IGST Act. Section 16 of IGST Act. We have covered all these things. See, if you have an idea, you can relate to all these, guys. Okay, because see, in the exam, they've asked 2 times. The calculation of aggregate turnover itself, they've asked 2 times for 5 marks. Clear? So you have to be very clear with this definition. It may look simple for you, but while calculating, you have to be knowing, okay, what it exactly includes, what it doesn't include. Anta. Next, interstate supplies of persons having same PAN to be computed on all India basis. So if you are supplying anything outside the state also, it should be counted. And aggregate turnover should always be calculated on all India basis. Sir, I have 5 different branches in India. While calculating aggregate turnover, should I calculate for each branch separately? Yes, you should calculate each branch separately. But aggregate turnover means the aggregate of the turnover of all the branches in India. Okay, so if all the 5 branches put together, what is the total aggregate turnover? That is the aggregate turnover for you. Clear? So it should always be calculated on all India basis. But it excludes, that is aggregate turnover does not include central tax, state tax, union territory tax, integrated tax and cess. In simple, whatever tax is levied under GST, including the cess, compensation cess, will not be included in the aggregate turnover, guys. Clear? The same definition we have also learned in composition scheme chapter also. Clear? 2.6, I have also told there, whatever aggregate turnover definition is given in 2.6, it is applicable for the entire act. It will not change. Anta. But only for composition scheme, some alterations have been given, where in explanation 1 and 2 of section 10, some alterations has been given. Agree? That is, the aggregate turnover will not include 1 or 2 things they have given. As per explanation 1, come on. This is just for a recall, guys. So as per explanation 1 to section 10, it tells the aggregate turnover excludes, to check the eligibility, the aggregate turnover excludes the value of exempt supplies by way of services of extending loans or advances on which in return interest or discount is charged. So aggregate turnover includes all the exempt supply except one exempt supply. What is that? That is services by way of extending loans or advances. Agree? This is only for section 10 as per explanation 1. Then explanation 2 also tell the aggregate turnover excludes 2 things for the purpose of paying tax. For paying tax, when we calculate the aggregate turnover in the current financial year, it excludes 2 things. That is the services by way of extending loans or advances on which interest or discount is charged, plus one more it excludes. What is it? the aggregate registration limit which is applicable for a person, or threshold limit which is applicable for a person in the first year of his business or profession. Agree? Yes, sir. This alterations is only for the purpose of section 10, guys, not for any other sections. Clear? So aggregate turnover, whatever is given in section 2.6 is applicable for the entire act, even for registration chapter also. Aggregate turnover definition is very, very important, because registrations in few cases are dependent on what is the aggregate turnover of a person as per section 22. Agree? So it is very important for you to know what exactly is aggregate turnover, what it includes and what it doesn't includes. Clear? Yes, sir. So in simple, if I write it in equation, what is aggregate turnover? Taxable outward supply. See, this equation I have just given it to make it simple for you. So it's better if there is any question for you on aggregate turnover, please define however it is given here, from year to year. Okay, this is what is given in section 2 clause 6. So in simple, aggregate turnover is equal to taxable outward supplies plus exempt supplies plus exports plus interstate supplies of a person having a same PAN, and it should be computed on all India basis excluding GST and cess. Excluding GST and cess. This is just in a simple way to make you understand and remain in your head. Okay. Next, what is place of business? It has been defined in section 2 clause 85. Place of business includes a place from where the business is ordinarily carried on, and includes a warehouse, a godown, or any other place where a taxable person stores his goods, supplies, or receives goods or services, or both. Or, so what is place of business means from a place from where you are doing your ordinary business. It also includes your warehouse and godown where you are storing the goods. Okay, sir. Next, a place where a taxable person maintains his books of accounts. So accounts office is there in Kormangla, in Bangalore. So is it also a place of business? Yes. Sir, I am not manufacturing anything there. I am not supplying any goods from that office. Still, that will be treated as your place of business. Next, or a place where a taxable person is engaged in the business through an agent by whatever name called. So I am carrying on my business through an agent. So from wherever the agent is operating now, you can declare that also as your place of business. Clear? You have to declare it, because if the invoice is issued in the name of agent, that is different story, because that will be a separate supply. But if a person is supplying anything through his agent, so in that case, his agent's place, what from wherever he is supplying also will be treated as place of business, guys. Clear? Yes. Next, principal place of business. Principal place of business means in simple term I can tell head office or corporate office. And who will decide what is my principal place of business? The person who is applying for registration. When I am applying for registration, assume I have various branches, I would have mentioned which is my principal place of business. Okay, in law and all we call it as corporate office, head office and all, na? Similar to it. In GST we call it as principal place of business, and other than that whatever branches we have, we call it as additional place of business. For example, let me give, see, assume for Karnataka I am taking single registration, whereas I have 5 different branches in Karnataka, I am taking only one registration. Can I do so? Yes. In that case, in your application for registration, you have to mention which is your principal place of business in Karnataka. Okay, assume Bangalore branch. Now, you have another 4 branches in Karnataka, na? You have to mention that them has additional place of business. So assume I have branches in Mysore, Mangalore, Hubli Dharwad and Shivamogga. So these 4 branches, I will mention it as additional place of business, guys. Additional place of business. Hope you guys got it. So who will select a business place as principal place of business? Me only. The person who is applying for registration. Principal place of business means the place of business specified as the principal place of business in the certificate of registration. So when I am applying for the registration, I have disclosed or I have mentioned that Bangalore branch as principal place of business. Based on that, a registration certificate will be issued for me, and in that registration certificate also that they would have mentioned the principal place of business is Bangalore branch, and the address and all will be mentioned. Clear? Yes. Next, proper officer. Who is proper officer? In many places we use this term, guys. Not only in this chapter, in many places. Wherever we tell any action is taken under GST, who will take it? Proper officer. So wherever we use GST department or the person will take action on you or the registered person. Who is that person who will take the action? Proper officer. Who is he? Is defined in 291. Proper officer in relation to any function to be performed under this act means the commissioner or the officer of the central tax who is assigned that function by the commissioner in the board. So who is proper officer? The commissioner or the officer of central tax who has assigned that function by the commissioner. Clear? Yes, sir. Next, registered person. Who is registered person under GST? Registered person means who is registered under section 25. Means section 25 talks about the procedure for registration. So whoever is registered under section 25 of CGST Act is called the registered person. But it does not include a person having unique identity number. So it does not include a person who is having unique identity number. Who will have unique identity number and all, we will learn it in section 25, guys. So in simple, registered person means the person who has taken registration under GST, guys. Okay. Now coming to tax period. What is tax period under GST? Tax period means the period for which the return is required to be furnished. Return is required to be furnished. Maximum people under GST will file monthly return, but there are some people who will also file quarterly return. So for them, the tax period might be quarter, or the composition person will file annual returns. They will not file any quarterly return. He will file one quarterly statement, which is not a return. So composition person will pay tax quarterly and file a statement in CMP 8, which is not a return. He will file the return annually. So for him, the tax period might be annual. Okay. Whereas the person, whoever is paying under section 9, he has two options. That is, he can file the return monthly. He can file the return quarterly also under QRMP scheme. So in that case, the tax period will be either monthly or quarterly, as the case may be. Okay. Next, under GST law, the concept of taxable person. So taxable person is different. Registered person is different, guys. So please be careful with it. Taxable person is significant since tax on supplies of goods and or services is to be paid by a taxable person. As per section 2 clause 107, taxable person means a person who is registered or is liable to get registered under GST. So taxable person means a person who is registered under GST or who is liable to get registered under GST. For example, sir, I was supposed to get registered under GST, but I have not applied for registration. So am I a registered person? No. But am I a taxable person? Yes, I am a taxable person. I am a taxable person. Okay. Thus, even an unregistered person who is liable to be registered is a taxable person. So I was supposed to get registered, but I have not got my registration still. So I am called a taxable person, but I may not be registered person because I am not registered still. Similarly, a person not liable to be registered but has taken voluntary registration and got himself registered is also a taxable person. Now, sir, I was not supposed to get registered under GST, but still I took voluntary registration. So in that case, you are taxable person as well as registered person. Because you have taken registration, you are called both. So in this chapter, we will understand when does a person becomes liable to get registered, what is the procedure for getting registered under GST, and how to get the registration amended. Once I get the registration done, I can also amend it later or change it later. When can registration be cancelled? So whatever registration I have taken is not for forever. It can also be cancelled under certain grounds. And when the cancellation of registration by the department can be revoked. Sir, my registration is cancelled. Can I take it back? Can it be revoked? Yes, it can be revoked under various grounds. What are those? We will be covering in detail in this chapter, guys. Clear? So with respect to the definitions, you can just understand what is the definitions, other definitions, but aggregate turnover definition is very, very important, guys. So you should know as it is. You should know this as it is. Other definitions, if you just know, okay, what is place of business, what is registered person, what is taxable person, if you just know that much, more than enough. They will not ask you to define all those things. But aggregate turnover definition is very, very important because there are questions asked on that. Okay, guys. So now coming to which are the sections which we would be covering in this chapters are section 22 to 30, guys. And I have given you at the bottom provisions of registration under CGST Act have also been made applicable to IGST Act via section 20 of IGST Act. Okay. So our today's agenda means what would be covering in our today's classes. We will cover section 22, 23, 24. If possible, we will also cover 25 if time permits. Clear? Because 22, 23, 24 takes time for us to do it. All three talks about who should get registered, guys. All these three sections talks about who should get registered. Who should get registered under GST. Clear? And all these three sections has to be read together. So if I ask you whether a person is supposed to get registered under GST or not, only when you have a knowledge of all these three sections, 22, 23, 24, you will be able to tell it. Clear? Because these three sections has to be read together. Is that clear, guys? Yes. So come to the notebook where you have written the section numbers at the beginning. I will just make you to write the sections, whatever we will be covering it in today's class. Come, guys, quickly open your notebook. Come to the first page where you have written the section numbers. So I think you would have written under CGST till 21, which talks about ITC. So now you write 22. Now you write 22. Persons liable for registration. Persons liable for registration. In bracket you can mention conditional registration. Means there are some conditions given there, or there are some situation given there. Only if you are covered under that category, you will get registered. If not, you need not. Okay, that is what is given in section 22, guys. Next, you write 23 under section number column. Write 23 under content. Persons not liable for registration. Persons not liable for registrations. So here in section 23 they are told the following persons need not get registered. The following persons need not get registered on the. So we will see who are them. Next is 24. 24. Under contents you write compulsory registration. Compulsory registration in certain cases. Compulsory registration in certain cases. Also write 25. In section number you write 25. And in content, procedure for registration. Procedure for registration. Okay. So now we would be covering three section 22, 23, 24, one after the other. See, guys, simple. Who should get registered under GST is answered in this three section. So it is like this: 22 plus 24 minus 23. Okay, means 22 and 24 will tell who should get registered, whereas 23 will tell who should not get registered. Who should not get registered. So a complete knowledge of all these three sections is required for you to decide whether a person is supposed to get registered or not. And important sections, guys. Clear? So what are those? One by one we will see. Section 22, subsection 1. Every supplier shall be liable to be registered under this act in the state or union territory other than special category states from where he makes a taxable supply of goods or services or both, if his aggregate turnover in a financial year, not in the preceding financial year, in a financial year, if it exceeds 20 lakhs. So they're telling a person is supposed to get registered under GST, that is the supplier. The supplier has to get registered under GST in a state or union territory if his aggregate turnover during the year exceeds 20 lakh. Sir, my aggregate turnover on 15th March, it exceeded 20 lakh. Should I get registered within 30 days? There is some time limit and all. Should I get registered? Yes, you have to get registered. It is not like, okay, if this year, if your aggregate turnover crosses the limit, next year you get registered. No, it's not like that. The day you cross your limit of 20 lakh, you are liable for registration. You are liable for registration. Actually, there is some 30 days time limit given. Within 30 days, you have to apply for registration and get the registration done. Clear? Irrespective on what day you are crossing that limit, within 30 days, you have to apply for registration, guys. Clear? So nothing called, okay, sir, this year my turnover has crossed the limit. So from 1st April, I will take the registration. No, it's not like that. Yeah, yes, sir. And this 20 lakh limit is applicable other than special category states. So this 20 lakh limit is for normal states. Okay. Then there are 4 special category states. For the purpose of registration, there are only 4 special category states, guys. Which are those? And what is the threshold limit for applicable for them? 10 lakh. So half of 20 lakh is 10 lakh. So what is it? We will see. Proviso. Provided that where such person makes taxable supplies of goods or services or both from any of the special category state, he shall be liable to be registered if his aggregate turnover in a financial year exceeds 10 lakh. So for special category states, the limit is half. For normal state, it is 20 lakh. So half of that is 10 lakh. So special category states for the purpose of this section is only 4 states. All 4 is northeastern states. MMNT. In short, I call it as MMNT, guys. Which are those? Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, and Tripura. Now pay attention. So I will just try to connect this with the composition scheme because there are chances that you may get confused. So that is why please pay attention here. See, guys, as per Article 279A, there are totally 11 special category states. That is 3 illy states or topmost states plus 8 northeastern states. So these are the special category states as per the Article 279A. But under Section 10, they have told there are for Section 10, special category states means 8 states. For whom the aggregate turnover limit under Section 10 is 75 lakhs, whereas for all other states and union territory, it is 1.5 crore. Hope you guys remember it. Clear? So out of 11, under Section 8, they have classified only 8 states as special category states. Now coming to Section 22, they have taken only 4. Totally, there are 11 special category states as per Article 279A. But for registration purpose, they have categorized only 4 states as special category states, guys. All 4 are northeastern states. Which are those? Come on. Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura. So if you are a person who is operating in any of these states, what is the turnover limit applicable for you? 10 lakh. If your turnover crosses 10 lakh, you have to get registered. Then for any other state, the turnover limit applicable is 20 lakh. Clear? See, guys, I know you may have some doubts. So I would be covering each and every aspect. Don't worry. I know what all doubts you guys may get it. So please listen to my explanation till I complete 22, 23, 24. And if you guys have any doubt, you will definitely be cleared with it. Clear? Yes, sir. So now 20 lakh is for normal states and union territory, whereas for only 4 states, the limit is 10 lakh. Okay. Now, sir, let me give a different scenarios. Now I am having my business in Karnataka. When should I get registered? If your turnover crosses, that is aggregate turnover crosses 20 lakh, you have to get registered in Karnataka. Okay, sir. Now, sir, I have operations in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. When should I get registered? When your turnover crosses 20 lakh. Because both are normal states. Agree. Now assume from Karnataka, the turnover is 12 lakh. And from Tamil Nadu, it is 10 lakh. So how much is your total? 22 lakh. Should I get registered? Yes, you have to get registered because aggregate turnover should be calculated on all India basis. So for both the branches, add the turnover. So what is your aggregate turnover? Both the branches added together, 22 lakh. So should I get registered? Yes. Where? Both in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Both the states. Once you are supposed to get registered, you have to get registered in all the states wherever you are having the business or branches. Clear? Yes, sir. Next, I am having branches in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Andhra Pradesh. Okay. So the turnover from, and what is the turnover limit applicable for me? If it crosses 20 lakh, I should get registered. Agree? Yes, sir. Next, Next, assume the turnover from Karnataka is 10 lakh and from Tamil Nadu it is 3 lakh and from Andhra it is 5 lakh. So what is the total? That 18 lakh. Should I get registered? No. Registration is not mandatory for you, but if you want, you can take voluntary registration. But as per section 22(1), registration is not applicable for you. Clear? Okay, sir. Now, one more interesting point, guys. Please pay attention here. Sir, now I am having branch in Karnataka and Manipur. I am having branches in Karnataka and Manipur. What is the turnover limit applicable for me? 20 or 10 lakh. You are operating, you are having business is one of the special category states. So the turnover applicable for you is 10 lakh, not 20 lakh. Clear? Okay, sir. So as you are operating in one of the special category states, the turnover limit applicable for you is 10 lakh. Okay. Now, assume the turnover from Karnataka branch is 3 lakh and from Manipur branch it is 2 lakh. So 5 lakh. Should I get registration? No, sir. You need not get it. Next, in the same scenario, assume my turnover from Karnataka is 13 lakh and Manipur is 2 lakh. So what is your total turnover? 15 lakh. Should you get registered? Yes, in both the states. Karnataka and Manipur, in both the states, you have to get registered. Clear? So please be careful, guys. While calculating the aggregate turnover, it should always be on all India basis. If you have different branches in different states, so calculate the turnover of the respective branches and at the end, add everything. That is what is called aggregate turnover. Clear? And if you are operating in one of the special category states also, if you are having a branch in any of this special category states also, the turnover limit applicable for you is 10 lakh. So if the aggregate turnover is more than 10 lakh, you have to get registered under GST. Hope it's clear for you. Sure. Now, there are some more proviso. We will cover it. Now, provided further that, this is the second proviso. Provided further that the government may, at the request of a special category state and on the recommendation of the council, enhance the aggregate turnover referred to in first proviso from 10 lakh to such amount not exceeding 25 lakhs and subject to such conditions and limitations as may be notified. So as per the first proviso, they told for 4 special category states, that is MMNT, the aggregate turnover limit is 10 lakh. But if any of the special category states request, the 10 lakh limit can be extended for maximum 25 lakh. That is, instead of 10 lakh, it can be increased to 25 lakh. That too, if it is requested by the special category states. So as of now, it has not been requested. So the government has not increased this limit, guys. So as of now, this provision is not relevant for you. Yeah, this is a power given to the government. If at the request of the special category states, the government has the power to increase the 10 lakh limit to maximum 25 lakh only for special category states. But as of now, the limit applicable for special category states is 10 lakh only. It has not been increased. So this proviso is not relevant for us from exam point of view. So next proviso, one more proviso. Provided also that the government may, at the request of state on the recommendation of the council, enhance the aggregate turnover of 20 lakh to such amount not exceeding 40 lakh. Okay, means 20 lakh limit is applicable for which states? Normal states. This one. Agree? They are telling the government has a power to increase this 20 lakh to 40 lakh. Okay. In case the supplier who is engaged exclusively in the supply of goods subject to such conditions and managed, and limitation as may be notified. And this proviso is important, guys. Why? Using this proviso, government has made a notification. Clear? So this proviso, that is the third proviso to section 22(1), gave the power to the central government to increase the limit of 20 lakh to the normal states for 40 lakh only for the exclusive supplier of goods, not for others. Exclusive supplier of the goods only, they asked you to increase it to 40 lakhs. Clear? And government has used this power and they have released a notification telling, okay, in the following cases, it is 40 lakh. Clear? So when you guys are studying, there are totally 3 limits, guys. As per section 22 read with notification along with proviso, there are totally 3 limits: 20 lakh, 10 lakh and 40 lakhs. So you should be knowing exactly when it is 20 lakh, when it is 10 lakh, and when it is 40 lakh, guys. Clear? And this proviso read with notification. This is read with notification, which is important. That notification I would be covering it later. Clear? And please be careful. This last proviso is applicable only for the normal states, for the supplier who is engaged only in the supply of goods. Sir, what if I am supplying goods as well as services? For you, 40 lakh is not at all applicable. For you, 20 lakh for normal states. Clear? So please be careful. Sir, what if I am supplying only services? Only services, 20 lakh. Sir, what if I am supplying only goods? 40 lakh might be applicable. I am not telling it is applicable because there are some exclusions there where 40 lakh is not applicable. They have given. Okay. If you are exclusively supplying the goods, then it can be 20 lakh or 40 lakh. Okay, sir. Next, sir, I am supplying both goods as well as services. In that case, it is always 20 lakh. Yeah, let me mention it here. Look here, look here, look here. For normal states, if you are a supplier of services, it is always 20 lakh limit. Okay, sir. This is aggregate turnover. Next, if you are an exclusive supplier of goods, if you are supplying only goods, in that case, the turnover applicable for you might be 20 lakh or 40 lakh. Okay, sir. Next, sir, I am supplying services plus supplier of goods. In that case, you are not the exclusive supplier of goods. Exclusive supplier of goods means you are supplying only goods. So you are not the exclusive supplier of goods. So 40 lakh limit is not available for you. So only 20 lakh. So this is only for normal states, whatever I am talking, guys. For special category states, it is always 10 lakh. Whether you are supplying goods, services, or whatever it is, for you always it is 10 lakh. Clear? For not special states, that is MMNT. Is that clear? Yes. But one explanation has been given here. Too much of masalas. What is that explanation? For purpose of this subsection, a person shall be considered to be engaged in the supply of goods even if he is engaged in exempt supply of services provided by way of extending deposit, loans, or advances, insofar as the consideration is represented by way of interest or discount. What are they trying to tell you in this explanation? See, I told you, if a person is supplying both goods as well as services, the turnover applicable for him is always 20 lakh because he is not the exclusive supplier of goods. But see, let me give a situation. I am the supplier who is supplying goods as well as services. And this service is by way of extending loans or advances. So under GST, services by way of extending loans or advances on which interest or discount is charged in return is exempt. So this service is exempt under GST. So they are telling, okay, if a person is providing services, that to only one service, that is extending loans and advances, which is exempt under GST, we will consider him as he is only engaged in supply of goods. We will consider him as only is engaged in supply of goods. And in that case, the turnover limit applicable for him will be what? 40 lakh. So don't consider the turnover whatever he has earned from the services by way of extending loans and advances. This is given only for one service, not for all the services. Clear? Now, sir, I am supplying goods plus consultancy services, saloon services, legal services. For you, always the turnover is 20 lakh only. Clear? So you are supplying goods plus one services by way of extending loan and advances. In that case, for you, 40 lakh might be applicable. Clear? So please be very careful. This is as per the explanation. So if there is any services by way of extending loans and advances, which is exempt under GST, if you are providing only that services along with the goods, then it is understood that you are supplying only goods. It is assumed that you are supplying only goods and you are eligible for 40 lakh limit. That is what is given in this explanation, guys. It means while calculating the threshold limit of 40 lakh in case of supplier of goods only, we shall not club value of exempt supply of services which is in form of extending loans or advances whose consideration is in the form of interest or discount. Clear? Actually, this is also covered in explanation 1 and explanation 2 of section 10 while calculating aggregate turnover. Clear? But here the same point is been covered while calculating what is the aggregate turnover applicable for the supplier of goods, whether 20 na 40 na. Yeah, yes. So this is all about subsection 1, guys. So subsection 1 has to be read, especially this proviso, whatever is there has to be read with notification. That notification I would be covering it at the end. That is at the end instance. Once I cover section 22, 23 and 24, I would be covering at that notification when exactly 40 lakh limit is applicable. Clear? Yes. Next, coming to subsection 2. Subsection 2. Every person who on the day immediately preceding the appointed day is registered or holds a license under an existing law shall be liable to be registered under this act with effect from the appointed day. So GST was introduced on 1st July 2017. We call that as appointed day. So whoever was registered under previous indirect tax regimes, like assume I was registered under VAT, service tax, central excise duty. Now on 1st July it is mandatory for you to get registered under GST. On 1st July it is mandatory for you to get registered under GST. So as on today, this is an outdated provision, means as on today, because that time already almost for 5 years has been done. So subsection 2 is not important for you. Then coming to subsection 3, where a business carried on by a taxable person registered under this act is transferred, whether on account of succession or otherwise, to another person as a going concern, the transferee or the successor, as the case may be, shall be liable to be registered with effect from the date of such transfer or succession. Now, assume, let me give an example. I was a registered person under GST, guys. I'm a registered person on GST. Now, on 10th September 22, I'm transferring my business to, assume I am having a business called A Limited, which is registered under GST. I'm transferring my business to B Limited. Okay. So in that case, I am called a transferor, agree na? Transferor, and B Limited is called transferee or successor. Okay. So in that case, B Limited, for them it is mandatory to get registered under GST, guys. Yeah. So if a registered business is transferred to another person, then for the successor or the transferee who will continue to carry on the business should get registered under GST. It is mandatory for them. Clear? Sir, can I just give my registration certificate to him? No, because your registration certificate would be registered under your PAN. You cannot, you can transfer your business, but you cannot transfer your registration also. So assume Vikas was taken a registration for A Limited. Now, as he is transferring his business, he can cancel his registration, and B Limited, they are the successor of the business. They have to apply for a fresh registration and get it. Registration cannot be transferred, guys. Please be careful. Business can be transferred. Assets and liabilities of the business can be transferred, but not the registration. Because for A Limited, I would have taken the registration in my PAN, under my PAN. If you are transferring it to others, then will they be operating under your PAN? No, it cannot happen. Is that clear? Yes, sir. So whoever is transferring the business, they will cancel their registration, and the transferee or the successor who will continue to carry on the business have to get registered on the day of transfer of business. Clear? They are liable to get registration on what date? On the date of transfer of business. Okay, sir. This is subsection 3. Then coming to subsection 4. Notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1 and 3, so it is having an overriding effect. In case of transfer pursuant to sanction of a scheme or arrangement for amalgamation or demerger of 2 or more companies pursuant an order of High Court, Tribunal or otherwise. So now a High Court or Tribunal or otherwise, means any persons, have given the order for the purpose of amalgamation or demerger of any 2 or more companies. In that case, the transferee, that is the successor, shall be liable to be registered with effect from the date on which the registrar of companies issue a certificate of incorporation giving effect to such order of High Court or Tribunal. That is the date on which the certificate of incorporation will be allotted to the transferee based on the order of the High Court or Tribunal, from that day is liable to get registered under GST. Clear? See, when you are liable to get registered under GST, it doesn't mean that the same day you have to apply and get the registration. Some time limit has been given. That is given in section 25. We will be learning it. Means if you are covered under any of this point, subsection 1, 2, 3, 4, wherever, you are liable to get registered under GST. So as per section 25, within 30 days, you have to apply for registration. Apply for registration. Clear? Yes, sir. Next, explanation. So for entire section 22, the explanation has been given. For the purposes of this section, the expression aggregate turnover shall include all supplies made by a taxable person. Okay, it includes all the supplies made by a taxable person, and we have already seen that as per section 26. But here the one explanation is given, whether on his own account or made on behalf of his principals. So now, if agent is supplying anything on behalf of the principal, and if that supply is treated as supply as per para 3 of schedule 1, that is when the invoice is issued in the name of agent, so it will be included in the turnover of agent, guys. Clear? I repeat, if agent is supplying anything on behalf of the principal, normally it will be included in the turnover of sub principal. It will be included in the turnover of principal. But if agent name is used in the invoice, or if the invoice is issued in the name of agent, then it is treated as a supply from agent. As per para 3 of schedule 1, even without consideration, it is treated as supply. In that case, it will be included in the turnover of agent, if it is a supply as per para 3. Okay. Next, supply of goods after completion of job work by a registered job worker shall be treated as the supply of goods by the principal referred to in section 143, and the value of such goods shall not be included in the aggregate turnover of registered job worker. Now, principal has sent the goods to the job worker for job work. Within 1 year, he has two options. He has to take back the goods, or else he can supply the goods from the job worker's place. Now assume the principal has supplied the goods from job worker's place to his customer. Now whose turnover is this? It is the turnover of principal, not the job worker. It is not the turnover of job worker. It will be a turnover of principal, guys. That is what the clarity is given in this explanation. Clear? Yes, sir. Next, so section 22 has 4 subsections. In this 22.1 is very important, guys. 22.1, which talks about aggregate turnover limit. Now it is very important because this point is having relevance for different chapters also. Clear? As per explanation 2 of section 10 also, they are told in the first year of business or profession, exclude the aggregate turnover for the purpose of paying tax, should exclude the registration limit applicable for the person. So you should know what is the registration applicable, registration limit applicable for a person. Clear? So there are totally 3 limit. Still we have not concluded this point because we are yet to cover the notification. I will be covering it, but 22.1 is very important for you. Clear? Because they have given reference to this in many other topics also. Now, compulsory registration in certain cases, 24, means there are totally 12 cases here, effectively 11, because 12th case is like a miscellaneous case. So there are totally 11 cases here where if you are covered under any of this point, you should get registered, irrespective of your turnover. We are not asking what is your turnover. If you are covered under any of this point, you should mandatorily get registered under GST, irrespective of your turnover. So that is why we call it as compulsory registration in certain cases. So what is it? 24. Notwithstanding anything contained in section 22.1, that means 24 is overriding 22.1. 22.1 tells, okay, if the aggregate turnover crosses this limit, you have to get registered. But 24 is overriding 22.1, guys. So that means in the following cases, the turnover limit is not at all applicable. So the following categories of person shall be required to be registered under this act. So which are those? One by one. Persons making any interstate taxable supply, means if you are supplying anything outside the state, registration is mandatory for you. Then casual taxable person making taxable supply. So casual taxable person, and there is one more person called non-resident taxable person. They are the 2 special category people. So we will be covering them. Who are those exactly? We will be covering it in section 27 of the same chapter, guys. Clear? Yes. So casual taxable person should always get registration. Then persons, recipient who are required to pay tax under reverse charge. Very important. So in this following three cases, means third one, let me explain. Now I am the recipient who is liable to pay tax on reverse charge basis on my inward supply. Should I get registered? Registration is mandatory for you, irrespective of your aggregate turnover. And in all these three cases, we have to also refer to section 23 because some exceptions has been given in section 23 for all these 3 points. So I would be explaining there. Okay. So in simple, the summary of these 3 points are: if a person is supplying anything outside the state, registration is mandatory for him. In any one branch also, if he is supplying outside the state, registration is mandatory for him. Okay. Then casual taxable person, always registration mandatory. Then if a recipient is liable to pay tax on reverse charge basis, then recipient has to get registered under GST mandatorily. Okay, sir. 3 points done. Next. So these 3 points has to be read with section 23, which I have mentioned in the points. Because see, whatever I have given in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 till 12 is as it is given in section 24. But for these 3 points, some exceptions has been mentioned in 23. That is why I have mentioned in the bracket, read with section 23, 23, 23. Clear? Yes. Next. Fourth one. Persons who are required to pay tax under section 9(5). So who is required to pay tax under section 9(5)? We have seen already, guys. Come on. You know already. There are 3 services. At. Hello? Listening? At. So as per section 9(5), electronic commerce, if there is any supply of services through electronic commerce operator, then electronic commerce operator will pay tax. And government has notified 3 services there. Which are those? Housekeeping services, accommodation services, and transportation of passenger services. Clear? So on these 3 cases, who will pay tax? Electronic commerce operator. Clear? But with respect to housekeeping and accommodation services, if the supplier of service is registered under GST, then electronic commerce operator will not pay tax. In that case, they are not covered here. So they are very clearly telling, if electronic commerce operator is paying tax as per section 9(5), they have to get registered under GST. So if there is any electronic commerce operator who is not paying tax under section 9(5), they are not covered in this point, but they are covered in other points. We will see that. Okay, sir. Next, non-resident taxable person making taxable supply. So he is one of the special category person. As I told you, in GST there are 2 special peoples: casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person, guys. They have been defined under GST. We will learn the provisions with respect to them in section 27 in the same chapter. Okay. So they have to get registered. Then 6th point, person who are required to deduct tax under section 51, that is TDS, whether or not separately registered under this act. So whoever is required to deduct TDS under section 51, they are supposed to get registered. Okay. Next. So section 51 and 52, we will be learning it in payment chapter, guys. It's in the same chapter, but I think it's 4.4. Okay. We will be learning in that chapter. As I've already told you, this chapter is a bit lengthy. We will take time to complete it and more of theory, guys, because there are various concepts covered under this chapter, but important from exam point of view. Each and every topic is important. They have asked question on each and every topic, guys. Chalo. So whoever is supposed to deduct TDS under section 51 of CGST, not income tax. In income tax also there is provision, TDS, TCS provision. They are not talking about that here. They are talking about TDS under CGST. Okay, sir. Next, persons who make taxable supply of goods or services or both on behalf of other taxable person, whether as an agent or otherwise. Means if you are supplying the goods or services on behalf of others as an agent or in any name, intermediary, we call it by them by different name, they should get registered. The traders or the agents should get registered. Agents we call it as, or intermediaries. Okay, sir. Next, 8th one, input service distributor, whether or not separately registered under this act. So in our previous chapter, we learned input service distributor who will distribute the credit with respect to input service. So input service distributor, for them, it is mandatory to get registered. Okay. Next, person who supply goods or services or both other than supplies specified under section 9(5) through such electronic commerce operator who is required to collect tax at source under section 52. Now you are supplying some goods and services through electronic commerce operator. In that case, the person who is supplying, the supplier who is supplying the goods and services through electronic commerce operator has to get registered under GST. But three exceptions are there. That is, if the electronic commerce operator is paying tax on the supplies made, that is 3 HAT is there. Na? In that case, the supplier need not get registered. That is what they are trying to tell. Means, if electronic commerce operator is paying tax on the 3 services HAT, then the supplier need not get registered, it seems. Okay. That is what they are trying to tell. Okay, I will try to connect these points and explain in the chart, guys. Next, electronic commerce operator who is required to collect tax at source under section 52. Clear? So section 52 and 52, 51 and 52. 51 talks about TDS. Section 52 talks about TCS. We will learn both these sections, which is important both from exam point of view as well as practically. So we'll be learning this under payment topic, guys. Under payment topic. Okay. Now I will try to connect 3 points which is related to electronic commerce operator. There are totally 3 points. 4th one, then 9th one, and 10th one. 4, 9, and 10. Okay. Now I am the supplier who is supplying through electronic commerce operator. So electronic commerce operator is a platform. I am supplying the goods to a recipient. Okay, sir. To a recipient. Now, we have already seen when 9(5) is applicable. We have already seen when 9(5) is applicable, guys. That is HAT. Housekeeping, accommodation, and transportation of passengers. Clear? So in this case, who is supposed to pay tax? Electronic commerce operator. So they're telling, okay, if electronic commerce operator is paying tax under section 9(5), they have to get registered. They have to get registered. Yeah. And when electronic commerce operator will pay tax under section 9(5), we know that. HAT. Yeah. Yes, sir. And HAT, in case of H and A, that is housekeeping and accommodation, if the supplier is already registered under GST, then electronic commerce operator need not pay tax. Why? Because the supplier is already registered. So he will pay tax. So electronic commerce operator will not pay tax. In that case, electronic commerce operator will not get registered, guys. He will not get registered. Hope you guys got the point. Clear? This is with respect to 9(5) explanation. Okay. Next, let me change the scenario. So now forget 9(5). 9(5) is done. Now electronic commerce operator. So under section 52, which tells whenever through electronic commerce operator a supply has taken place, so recipient will pay to whom? Electronic commerce operator. Electronic commerce operator will give it to the supplier, who is actually the seller. So section 52 is telling electronic commerce operator, whatever amount you pay to the supplier, before that deduct TDCS. Deduct TCS on that amount, so that the government can track this transaction. Because sometimes what happens, the supplier will not disclose this transaction. He will try to hide it to avoid tax. So what they are trying to tell is, electronic commerce operator, you will collect the payment from recipient, you will give it to supplier. So when you are giving it to supplier, a part of it, a certain percentage has been mentioned, the part of it, collect it as TCS and give it to us, so that we can track the transactions. We can track the transaction, and we will make sure that the supplier is disclosing this transaction as his outward supply, and he will pay tax on it. Yeah. So in that case, what they are telling is, so if electronic commerce operator is supposed to collect TCS as per section 52 of CGST Act, then electronic commerce operator should get registered under GST. Yeah. So in detail about section, I am not explained in detail about section 52. I have just given some idea about it, guys. As of now, it's more than enough. When we go to section 51, 52, we will learn in detail about TDS, TCS. Yeah. When exactly, what is the percentage, who will collect, when they will pay, everything we will learn it. Clear? Yes. So whenever electronic commerce operator is collecting the TCS, then they have to get registered. Who? Electronic commerce operator. Okay, sir. This is one situation. There is one more situation. There is one more situation. Now, you are the supplier who is supplying the goods and services through electronic commerce operator to the recipient. So you are the supplier of goods or services who is supplying any goods or services through electronic commerce operator to the recipient. And on that, 9(5) is not applicable. So whatever you are supplying on that, 9(5) is not applicable. Okay, 9(5) is not applicable. So if 9(5) is not applicable, who is liable to pay tax? Supplier. So tax will be paid by whom? Supplier. And they're telling you should get registered under GST. So the person, whoever is supplying the goods or services through electronic commerce operator, on which 9(5) is not applicable, who should get registered? Supplier. Supplier should mandatorily get registered under GST. Yeah, so there are totally 3 points where they're talking about 9(5). If electronic commerce operator is paying tax under 9(5), they should get registered. Okay. Next, if electronic commerce operator is collecting TCS as per section 52, they should get registered. Okay. Then supplier is supplying the goods and services through electronic commerce operator, and on that supply 9(5) is not applicable. In that case, who should get registered? Supplier. Because he is the one who is liable to pay tax, he will get registered. Mandatory, irrespective of the turnovers. Clear? So for ECO, there are two things covered. If they are covered under section 52, that is TCS section, they have to get registered. Or if they are covered under section 9(5), they have to get registered. Who? Electronic commerce operator. Clear? Yes. So this is what the summary of this 4th, 8th and 10th point, guys. Because all three talks about electronic commerce operator, electronic commerce operator, electronic commerce operator. So you may get confused. Sir, what exactly is this and that? Yeah, 11th one. Every person supplying online information and database access or retrieval services from a place outside India to a person in India other than a registered person. Now, there is a person who is sitting outside India, is giving some online information or database access retrieval services to a person in India. To a person in India. Okay. And that person is unregistered in India. Is an unregistered person in India. I repeat, there is a person outside India. There is a person outside India who is giving some online information or database accesses to whom? To a person who is unregistered in India. In that case, they're asking this person to get registered in India. He's outside India, but still they're asking him to get registered in India. Clear? As per section 24. Clear, guys? Yes, sir. Next, the last point is like miscellaneous point. Such other person or class of persons as may be notified by the government on the recommendation of the council. Clear? Means the government can extend this list. They can keep on adding other peoples also under this. That power has been given to the government. As on today, there are totally 11 people who should get mandatory registration under section 24, guys. Clear? Yes. So I have covered section 22 and 24, and now I would be covering it 23. I have actually first covered 24 and then we are covering 23 because 22, 24 talks about who should get registered. That is why I have covered one after the other. Now we would be covering 23. 23 will tell who should not get registered. Okay, we'll see. The following persons shall not be liable to registration, namely, any person engaged exclusively in the business of supplying goods or services or both that are not liable to tax or wholly exempt from tax under this act or under IGST Act. Now, I am supplying something which is completely exempt under GST. In that case, am I required to get registered under GST? No. Irrespective of my turnover, I need not get registered, guys. Clear? I repeat. Sir, my outward supply is completely exempt under GST. Or else my outward supply is non-taxable supply. I am supplying only petrol. I am supplying only alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Should I get registered under GST? No. Clear. Sir, what if I am providing two? My outward supply, one is taxable, one is exempt. In that case, you are not covered under this point. You are not at all covered under this point. Clear. So you need to check as per 24 or 22 where you are covered. Should I get registered or not? Clear. Because point A here, okay, 23 subsection 1 point A is talking about very clearly only if you are exclusively engaged in exempt supply or non-taxable supply, you are not supposed to get registered. If you are engaged in both, that is taxable as well as exempt supply, then you are not covered under this point. Clear? And I have various examples on this, guys. We will discuss that one by one once we cover these portions, provisions. Then second point, an agriculturist to the extent of supply of produce out of cultivation of land. So I am an agriculturist or a farmer who is supplying only whatever I grow in my land, agriculture land. In that case also you are not supposed to get registered. Sir, I am also agriculture plus I am also doing something else, non-agriculture or business. In that case, you are not covered in this point. It is purely for the person who is doing only agriculture activities. Clear? So please be careful. I have some examples on this. We will discuss that once we are done with the provisions. Then coming to subsection 2. Subsection 2 gives the power to the government to notify any other persons who are exempt from registration, guys. The government may, on the recommendation of the council, by notification specify the category of persons who may be exempted from obtaining registration under the GST. So using this power, the government has exempted few people. Who are those? I told you here, read with section 23. Clear? Under section 24, the first 3 points, read with 23 I have given. So person who is making interstate taxable supply and casual taxable person and recipient in case of RCM has to get registered as per section 24, but it has to be read with 23. That point is here. Okay. Following category of persons have been notified as being exempted from obtaining registration under GST law. So whatever power has been given for the government under section 23 subsection 2, they have notified 3 people here using this power. Which are those? Please pay attention. This is important. Please understand as it is. Persons, that is the supplier, who are only engaged in making supplies of taxable goods or services, or both. The total tax on which is liable to be paid on reverse charge basis by the recipient of such goods or services, or both, under section 9(3) have been exempted from obtaining registration. What are they trying to convey in this point is, see, I am the supplier who has supplied a goods or services to a recipient. Okay, on which recipient will pay tax under RCM. Under RCM as per section 9(3). Okay, as per section 9(3), who is paying tax? Recipient. In that case, they are trying to tell recipient should get registered as to get mandatory registration under section 24. That is what is given in section 24. Recipient should get registered under 24. Okay. Next, coming to supplier. Supplier, okay. If supplier's outward supply is only on which recipient will pay tax, he is not having any other supplies. He is not having any other supply. Whatever he is supplying, only recipient will pay tax. In that case, supplier is covered under section 23, who need not get registration. Who need not get registration. Clear? Now, sir, what? Supplier is supplying goods on which recipient is liable to pay tax, and is also supplying services where supplier is liable to pay tax. In that case, you are not covered under 23. You are not covered under 23. 23 is very clearly telling you are the supplier who is only supplying the goods or services on which RCM is applicable. You are not supplying anything else on which forward charge is applicable. In that case, recipient is anyway registered under section 24. It is mandatory for him to get registered. So you don't get registered. That is what section 23 is telling. Clear? Sir, what about the persons who are covered under 9(4)? 9(4) is clearly telling supply is from unregistered person to recipient. So we know that the supplier is unregistered. Recipient is registered. Clear? So here they are not talking about 9(3) RCM. They are not talking about 9(4) RCM. because 9(4) clearly tell recipient is registered, supplier is unregistered anta. So it is already known that supplier is unregistered, recipient is registered. Yeah. So they are talking about which RCM? 9(3) RCM. Clear, guys? Yes. Next, B point here. The person who is making interstate supplies of services and having an aggregate turnover to be computed on all India basis not exceeding 20 lakh in financial year have been exempted from obtaining compulsory registration, and in case of special category states, instead of 20 lakh, it is 10 lakh, guys. So what are they trying to convey in this point? Please pay attention. This is somewhere related to this. If a person is making interstate taxable supply, he is supposed to get registered under GST, mandatory. Means if he is supplying outside the state. But here they are giving the exemption for the supplier of services outside the state. So if you are supplying the services outside the state, you will get registered only if your aggregate turnover crosses 20 lakh. And in case of MMNT, you will get registered only if your turnover crosses 10 lakh. Sir, what if I am supplying goods outside the state? Mandatory registration. Because here exception is given only for the supplier of services outside the state. So if you are supplying services outside the state, and if your turnover is within 20 lakh, or in case of special category states, if it is within 10 lakh, you need not get registered. Registration is not applicable for you. Yeah. So exception is given only for services which are supplied outside the states. Sir, what if the goods are supplied outside the state? Then as per section 24, it is mandatory to get registered, guys. So it is very important for you to learn this 24 along with 23 for these 3 points. That is why in the bracket I have mentioned there, red with 23, red with 23, red with 23. Clear? Because whatever is given in 24, it has been overruled in these points here. Clear? Yes, sir. Next, C. A person including casual taxable person. So as per section 24, casual taxable person is supposed to get registered. Yes, sir. So a person including casual taxable person making interstate supply again of what? Goods is liable to be registered compulsorily under GST under section 24. Agree, na? So casual taxable person as well as the supplier of goods supplying goods outside the state, they should mandatorily get registered as per section 24. But however, in the following cases, person making interstate supplies of goods have been exempted from obtaining registration. Means if you are covered in these 2 points, then even if you are supplying the goods outside the state, for you compulsory registration is not applicable. That means you need not get registration if your turnover is within 20 lakh or 10 lakh, guys. If your registration, you have to get registered if your turnover crosses 20 lakh or 10 lakh. But if it is within that, you need not get registered. Which are those 2 cases? Person making interstate taxable supplies of notified handicraft goods, means which are predominantly made by hands, guys, like basket, candles, all these products, like leather products, which are made by hands. Persons making interstate tax or toys. Next, person making interstate taxable supply of products which are made by the craftsman, again, which are predominantly made by hand, even though some machinery may be used. In the process, a small part of machinery can be used, but it is predominantly made by the hand. Okay. So in simple, guys, if any handicraft goods or the goods made by the craftsman are sold even outside the state, it's okay. Registration is not mandatory for you, but the following conditions should be satisfied. That is, the aggregate value of such supplies to be computed on all India basis does not exceed 20 lakh, 10 lakh in case of special category states of MMNT in a financial year. So please be careful. Means up to 20 lakh or 10 lakh, you need not get registered. If your turnover crosses that limit, you have to get registered. Okay, sir. Next, such persons have obtained a PAN and have generated an e-way bill. So for transporting the goods from one state to another state, you have to generate the e-way bill and all. It is a separate provision which we would be learning it in invoice chapter. Fine. So he should be having a PAN and he has generated e-way bill for the transportation of goods from one state to another state. Then up to 20 lakh or 10 lakh, he need not get registered, guys. Clear? So if I just summarize all these points, Simple. Section 24 is telling in case of interstate supply, registration is mandatory. They are not specifying goods or services. In case of interstate supply, registration is mandatory. But if a services is supplied, if any services is supplied outside the state, or if handicraft goods or the goods made by the craftsman predominantly by hand, if it is supplied outside the state, then it is not covered under section 24. Section 23 is telling you need not get registered if your turnover is within 20 lakh or 10 lakh. But if your turnover crosses 20 lakh or 10 lakh, it is mandatory for you to get registered. Means you have to get registered. Clear, guys? So please be careful. So in this point, whatever is covered under section 23 is any services supplied outside the state, or in case of goods, only two goods. Handicraft goods, that too notified handicraft goods, and which are those goods and all, you need not worry. Then the goods which are made by the craftsman predominantly by hand. So if these two goods only is supplied outside the state, it is required to be get registered only if their turnover crosses 20 lakh or 10 lakh. If any other goods are supplied outside the state, it is mandatory to get registered without any threshold limit. Irrespective of your turnover, you have to get registered in case of any other goods. Yeah, yes, sir. So now we are done with 22, 23, 24. All three we have covered. We have some examples here. Let me just go through it. Then we also have to go through the notification, which we are yet to cover. Examples. A farmer produces goods through cultivation from his own land. So he's an agriculturist and supplies the same to the traders. So he's supplying the same to the traders. The goods so supplied during the whole of the year aggregates to 50 lakh. So the aggregate turnover is 50 lakh. But he is supplying something which is out of his cultivation of land. So section 23 gives exemption for it. So A is not liable to get the registration in terms of section 23(1)(b) of CGST Act, guys. Clear? Yes. Next, second point. And here the aggregate turnover doesn't matter whether it is 50 lakh, 100 lakh, 200 lakh, whatever it is. If you are an agriculturist, then you should not get registered. Next, Madhur Oils, Punjab, is exclusively engaged in supplying petrol. So petrol is non-taxable under GST. Yes, sir. The supply of petrol is not liable to GST. Thus, Madhur Oil is not liable for registration as it is engaged exclusively in supplying goods not liable to GST. So irrespective of their turnover, they will not get registered under GST. Clear? Yes, sir. Next, as per section 23, you can also mention that. 23(1). 23(1)(a) if you want that clause also. Next, Bhavya Jyoti Foundation, a charitable trust registered under section 12AA of the Income Tax Act 1961, is exclusively engaged in the supply of services by way of charitable activities. Okay. So they are engaged in the services of charitable activities under GST. Even charitable activity services, whatever is given by way of charitable activities, is exempt, guys. Clear? So you would have learned this in Exempt chapter. We have one more chapter called Industry Specific Analysis. We will be learning there also this topic with respect to charitable institution, educational institution, hotel industry and all. We will be learning there. What is taxable, what is exempt. We will be learning in detail in that chapter, guys. Chalo. So charitable institution which is registered under section 12AA of Income Tax Act, they are providing services by way of charitable activities. Okay. Services by an entity registered under section 12AA of Income Tax Act by way of charitable activities are exempt from GST. It has been exempt under GST. Thus, so they are providing the services which are exempt under GST, exclusively providing the services which are exempt under GST. So should they get registered? No. Thus, Bhavya Jyoti Foundation is not liable for registration as it is engaged exclusively in supplying services exempt from GST. Exclusively services which are exempt under GST. So, as per section 23(1)(a), they should not get registered. Clear? Yes, sir. So this fourth example, I will cover it later. Come to fifth one. Dola and Co., located in Delhi, is engaged in supply of taxable goods in the neighboring states of Punjab and Haryana. Its aggregate turnover in the current financial year is 10 lakh. Okay. Delhi is a normal state. It is not a special category state. He is engaged in supply of taxable goods in neighboring states. So what did you understand from that? They are supplying the goods outside the state, guys. Okay. Its aggregate turnover in the current financial year is 10 lakh. Since it is engaged in making interstate taxable supply of goods, which is not a handicraft good. It is not. See, until and unless they mention handicraft goods or craftsman goods in the question, it is always understood that it is normal other goods. Okay, if they clearly give it, the supplier is supplying handicraft goods or the goods which are made by craftsman, then only apply 23 provision. If not always, it is assumed that it is normal goods. Okay. Since it is engaged in making interstate taxable supply of goods, it is required to register mandatorily under GST, irrespective of its aggregate turnover. Irrespective of its aggregate turnover, they are covered under section 24. They have to get registered. However, if in the above case, Dola and company is engaged in interstate supply of taxable services. Okay. What if they were providing services instead of goods? It will be eligible for exemption from registration till its aggregate turnover does not exceed 12 lakh. So because they are from Delhi, so normal state, for them, what is the threshold limit applicable? 20 lakh. And they are supplying services outside the state. No problem. If their turnover is within 20 lakh, they need not get registered. This is an exception given under section 23 for the interstate supplier of services. Okay. Next, sixth one. Ariza Private Limited, located in Madhya Pradesh, is a supplier of taxable and notified handicraft goods. It supplies these goods in the neighboring states, so outside the states of Uttar Pradesh and Orissa. Its aggregate turnover in the month of April is 15 lakh. In the April itself, it's 15 lakh. Fine. So they are providing interstate outward supply, guys. Although Ariza Private Limited is engaged in making interstate supply of taxable goods, it is not liable to obtain registration till its aggregate turnover does not exceed 20 lakh, as it has availed the exemption from registration under notification by central government. Why? Because it is supplying handicraft goods. Okay, so it is supplying handicraft goods outside the state. Okay, in that case, they are covered under 23 exceptions. In that case, if your turnover is up to 20 lakh or 10 lakh, you need not get registered. If it crosses 20 lakh or 10 lakh, then only you will get registered. So here, from which state you are from? Madhya Pradesh. So what is the turnover limit applicable? 20 lakh. So your turnover is only 15 lakh. Should you get registered? No, sir. As I am supplying notified handicraft goods outside the state, for me, the limit is applicable. If I am supplying any other goods, yes, you have to get registered mandatorily. But handicraft goods and goods made by craftsman, exemption has been given as per section 23. Clear, guys? Yes. Next, an important note I have given you, because see, states also, for which state what limit you have to be knowing, guys, because sometimes they use the name of the states in the question. Based on that, you have to decide what is the limit applicable. Anta. Clear? In the examples also you can observe, I have used the state names. So you should know for which state what is the limit applicable. So here, important note, this note is on the states part. Total 11 special category states are provided under subclause G of clause 4 of article 279A of the constitutions. Which are those? 3 topmost states, or ill states I can call, plus 8 northeastern states, guys. Clear? Which are those? Jammu and Kashmir, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Meghalaya, Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim and Tripura. Okay, sir. Therefore, for the purpose of registration, only 4 states have been taken. Out of this 11, for registration, they have taken only 4 states as special category states. Which are those? Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland and Tripura. And in short, I use this as MMNT, guys. All four are northeastern states. All four are northeastern states. Clear? And please try to connect this with section 10 and study so that it will be easy for you. See, out of total 11 states, 8 states are taken for section 10. For section 10, there are 8 special category states where 75 lakh limit is applicable. Okay, sir. But here only 4 states are taken. Okay, out of that 8, they have taken only 4. Other 4 are excluded. So it would be easy for you when you relate and study, or else sometimes you will get confused. Okay, is it covered under section registration or composition? You may get confused for any states. Okay, especially the special category states. Yeah, so wherever possible, I will be trying to give connections and explain you guys the difference. What is covered there, what is not covered here, or something like that. What is the difference on that? So that you can easily try to remember like that. If something is similar, is covered under 2 different provisions, try to know what is the difference between both guys. So that you can easily remember, okay, what is covered there, what is covered here. You can easily able to differentiate it. Okay, now threshold limit for registration for those engaged in exclusive supply of goods enhanced to 40 lakh wide notification number 10/2019 except. So I told you we are yet to cover a notification. So section 22 third proviso gave the power to the government to extend the limit of 20 lakh to maximum 40 lakh for the exclusive supplier of goods for the normal states. Agree? Using this power, the government has released a notification. That is what we are reading now. So 40 lakh limit is applicable for the exclusive supplier of goods. Exclusive supplier of goods. Except means in the following cases 40 lakh is not applicable. In the following cases 40 lakh is not applicable. So which are those? One by one. Persons engaged in making intra-state supplies in the states of Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland, Tripura, Puducherry and Telangana. Totally 10 states are covered. Okay, I have a logic to remember this also. I will tell that afterwards. So there are totally 10 states. If you are supplying any goods within these states, that is intra-state supplies of goods within these states, for you 40 lakh limit is not applicable. It will be either 10 lakh or 20 lakh. For MMNT it will be 10 lakh. We know that. For remaining 6 states it will be 20 lakh. Okay? Yes. Next. Persons who are required to take compulsory registration under section 24. So we have seen the list. There are totally 11 people who are supposed to take registration, compulsory registration under section 24. For them, this 40 lakh is not applicable. So simple. Whoever is supposed to get registered under section 24, for them registration turnover limit at all is not applicable. Clear? So one point which is important here, which I need to highlight here is, see guys, if a person is supplying the goods outside the state, as per section 24, they have to get registered mandatorily. Except handicraft goods and goods made by craftsmen, where the exemption is given under section 23. If you are supplying any other goods outside the state, it is mandatory for you to get registered. So you are covered under section 24. So in simple, what they are trying to connect here is, if you are supplying the goods outside the state, 40 lakh limit is not at all applicable. So 40 lakh is exclusively for the supplier of goods within the state. Can I tell like this? They actually in the notification, they are not told within the state and all, but it is understood here. When they are told for the persons who are covered under section 24, 40 lakh limit is not applicable. Who is covered under 24? One of the point is the person who is supplying the goods outside the state, except handicraft goods and the goods made by the craftsman. So you are covered under 24. So that means 40 lakh limit as per the notification is applicable for the exclusive supplier of goods within the state. Within the state, guys. Clear? Yes. Next, if you are a supplier of ice cream and other edible oils, whether or not containing cocoa, pan masala, or tobacco and manufactured tobacco substitutes. In short, I can call it as IPT. And please be careful here, aerated water is not covered. Yeah, See, when we were studying composition scheme, the 4 manufacturers for whom the composition scheme is not available. If you are manufacturing iPad, you are not covered under composition scheme. For you, composition scheme is not available. You can be the supplier of that, but not the manufacturer. Which are those 4 products? I, that is ice cream, P, pan masala, A, aerated water, and T, tobacco. So 4 products were covered there. So here also they are trying to tell suppliers of, whether you are the manufacturer, trader, they are not telling. If you are supplying ice cream, pan masala and tobacco, IPT, for you 40 lakh limit is not applicable. Clear? It is either 20 lakh or 10 lakh for you. Clear? But please be careful, aerated water is not covered here. Whether they have missed it or intentionally they have excluded it, we don't have idea, but aerated water they have not mentioned here. Whereas in composition scheme, they have mentioned that. If you are manufacturing 4 product, you are not eligible for composition scheme as per section 10. Agree? Yes. So this point related to composition. Last one. Person who is taking voluntary registration. So you have already taken a voluntary registration. So you already become a bakra. So for you, no limit is applicable. So threshold limit for registration for service provider will continue 20 lakh. And in case of special category states will be 10 lakh, because you can see special category states MMNT is excluded in this first point. Along with that, another 6 states have been excluded, for whom 40 lakh limit is not applicable. So whoever is covered in these 4 points, for them 40 lakh limit is not applicable, guys. So in that case 20 lakh or 10 lakh limit might be applicable, or if you are covered under 24, no limit at all is applicable for you. Clear? So after covering all this, I have prepared a table which gives a summary of whatever we have discussed. Clear? With respect to threshold limit, because threshold limit is very confusing. Previously only 10 and 20 lakh was there, but later they added a notification telling 40 lakh is applicable except in the following cases. So it might be very confusing for the student. That is why I thought, okay, let me prepare a table where it will give a clear-cut clarity for you when exactly what limit is applicable. Chalo guys, now threshold limit for registration, it is like a summary. Whatever we have learned, I am just given a summary in this table. Threshold limit for a registration for supplier of goods within a state. So you are the supplier of goods within the state, intrastate. What is the threshold limit applicable for you? Simple. 10 lakh for MMNT, 10 lakh for MMNT, that is special category states for the purpose of registration. Then there are 6 more states, that is Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Puducherry, Telangana. For this 6 states, it is 20 lakh. For all other states and union territory, it is 40 lakh. Clear? Sir, why this 10 you have taken here? Simple guys. It is the 10 states which are excluded in this first bullet point. It is the 10 states which are excluded in that first bullet point. Yeah, and it is easy for you to remember. See, out of 11 special category states as per article 279A, for section 10, that is composition scheme, they have taken only 8 states. Okay, na? And for section 22, they have taken only 4 states. And it is easy to remember MMNT. Okay, sir. And here, in the first 2 points, first bullet point, they have totally excluded 10 states, guys. So it might be difficult for you to remember exactly, sir, which all states are covered. Simple point I will give you. See, whatever 10 states are there in that first point, so that is notification where 40 lakh limit not applicable. So there they are trying to take 10 states. Agree, na? So there that 10 states is nothing but whatever 8 states which are covered here. Composition scheme, whichever, for 8 states, 75 lakh limit is applicable, na? 75 lakh for 8 states, right? Yes, sir. So here for 4 states, 10 lakh limit is applicable. Agree? So what they have done in that notification, they have excluded 10 states, right? That's 10 states as As it is, whatever in composition scheme, they have kept 75 lakh limit for 8 states now. They have taken it plus 2 more states. So that 2 more states are Telangana and Puducherry. TP. TP. Telangana and Puducherry. This is just a logic for you to remember, guys, or shortcut to remember you. For you, how many states are excluded from 40 lakh limit? 10 states. So out of that 10 states, 8 states for whichever the composition limit is 75 lakh, take as it is. Take as it is. Plus 2 states, that is Telangana and Puducherry. Additional 2 states they have put it here. Clear? So Telangana was a new state which was formed. So they requested, sir, for us, don't keep 40 lakh limit, keep a 20 lakh limit only. Clear? And this 20 lakh limit is extended to 40 lakh at the request of the states. Clear? At the request of the states, Telangana and Puducherry told, no, sir, thank you. Let me keep the limit for us only 20 lakh, not 40 lakh. Clear? So this total 10 states are excluded from 40 lakh limit. Agree? So out of this 10 states, MMNT, for MMNT, what is the limit? 10 lakh. Whereas for the remaining 6 states, it is 20 lakh, guys. 20 lakh. Clear? Okay, sir. For all other states and union territory, it is 40 lakh. It is 40 lakh. Clear? Yes. Next, see guys, this I think I have already explained this point. Let me again tell this. In India, you guys can take down this. Even this, you guys can take down. Means please take it in the way you understand. I will repeat this point. See, there are totally 11 special category states as per Article 279A. Now for Section 10, they have taken only 8 states as special category states, for which the turnover limit applicable is 75 lakh. For all other states, it is 1.5 crore. Agree na? Yes, sir. This is under Section 10.1 actually. 10.1. Okay. Next, coming to registration chapter, Section 22 tells there are only 4 special category states for registration purpose, for which 10 lakh limit is applicable. Which are those? MMNT. Okay, which are northeastern states. Now, as per the notification, 40 lakh limit is applicable for the exclusive supplier of goods. For the exclusive supplier of goods, but 10 states are excluded from this. Means for this 10 states, either 10 lakh or 20 lakh limit will be applicable. Which are those 10 states? Simple. Whatever 8 states are there for Section 10.1, same 8 states you take as it is, plus 2 additional states, that is TP. What is that? TP. That is the Telangana and Puducherry, or PT. PT or TP, anyway, you can take it. Clear, guys? So if you want, you guys can take down this also, so that it would be easy for you to remember the states when exactly what limit is applicable. Yeah, because questions might be on the states sometimes. You should be knowing what is the limit applicable. Okay, next. So in India, for geographical purpose, there are a total how much states and how much union territories? There are 28 states, guys. Now, after removal of Jammu and Kashmir, previously it was 29, including Jammu Kashmir, but now they have made it as union territory. So there are totally 8 union territory, 28 states and 8 union territories. But for GST purpose, this 8 union territories are divided into 2 parts. That is 3 union territory which have their own state government. So they have their own state legislation or state government, that is Delhi, Puducherry and Jammu Kashmir. Let me mention that also. Delhi, Puducherry, Pudu I have mentioned, or Cherry you can mention. Puducherry, and one more is Jammu Kashmir, J&K. So which are the 3 union territories have their own state legislation, and remaining 5 union territories. Remaining 5 union territories, they don't have their state legislation. They are managed by the central government. They are Andaman and Nicobar Islands. They are Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Lakshadweep, Chandigarh, Ladakh, and the last one is Daman and Diu, Dadra Nagar Haveli. All this is one only. Daman and Diu and Dadra and Nagar Haveli. Clear? I repeat, there are 5 union territories totally. Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Lakshadweep, Chandigarh, Ladakh, and last one is Daman, Diu, Dadra and Nagar Haveli. There are totally 5 union territories which don't have their state legislation, so they are controlled by the central government. So no state government. There is no state government. Okay, sir. There is no state government. So now for GST, guys, for GST purpose, for GST, there are totally 31 states, including the states where state government is there. Clear? So if there is any supply within the states, what will be levied? CGST plus SGST would be levied. If there is any supply within these states, CGST plus SGST would be levied. Okay. Then here for 5 union territories, if there is any supply within the same union territory, CGST plus UTGST would be levied. Okay, and with respect to UTGST, we have a separate act for it, and that is covered in your portions. We'll be covering it. UTGST Act, IGST Act, Compensation to States Act. So small topics, small act also. Those things are covered in your syllabus. Once we are done with CGST provisions, we'll also be covering it. Very small chapters. Clear? And not so important, but still covered in the syllabus. We'll be going through it once we cover CGST Act, guys. Clear? This is important for you to know totally how many states are there. For GST purpose, 31, including 3 union territories where there is own state legislation and state government, whereas there are 5 union territories without state legislation. We call them as union territories only, even for GST purpose, where CGST plus UTGST would be levied if there is any supply within the same union territories. If there is any supply from one state to another state, we call it as interstate supply, and IGST would be levied, guys. And if there is any supply from one union territory to another union territory, for example, from Andaman to Lakshadweep, there is a supply. It is interstate supply. IGST would be levied for it. Clear? For example, next one more example. Now there is a supply from Jammu Kashmir to Ladakh. From Jammu Kashmir to Ladakh, that is from one state to one union territory for GST purpose. Agree? So there is a supply from one state to one union territory. What is it? Interstate supply, and IGST would be levied. Yeah, and whenever I use the term Delhi, Puducherry and Jammu Kashmir, I use the term state only, guys. Clear? Geographically, yes, they are union territory. Okay, but for GST, we know that it is a state. So whenever I use the name of these 3, we call it as state only. Clear? Fine? Sure, guys. So please take down this. Hope you guys have taken down. Let me continue. Notes. For the purpose of GST, Delhi, Puducherry and Jammu Kashmir are considered as states. Therefore, there are total 31 states where CGST plus SGST is levied, and 5 union territories where UTGST plus CGST is levied on intrastate supplies. Okay, I've explained already this point. Next, second point. In case of interstate supply of goods, registration is mandatory under Section 24 of CGST Act, but the exemption is granted to a person making interstate taxable supply of handicraft goods up to an aggregate turnover of 20 lakh and 10 lakh in case of MMNT, as long as the person has a PAN. Clear? So if you are supplying any goods outside the state except handicraft goods and goods made by craftsmen, for you the registration limit is not at all applicable. So even this notification also is not applicable for you if you are supplying the goods outside the state. Whereas in all other cases, means if you are supplying handicraft goods and the goods which are made by craftsmen outside the state, for you also 40 lakh limit is not applicable. For you either 20 lakh or 10 lakh is applicable. They are clearly told. For normal state 20 lakh, or in case of special category states 10 lakh. So even in that case also 40 lakh limit is not applicable for you if you are supplying handicraft goods or goods made by craftsmen outside the state. For you 20 or 10 will be applicable. Note, 40 lakh limit is applicable to only the persons engaged exclusively in intra-state supply of goods. So if you are supplying goods outside the state, for you 40 lakh limit is not at all applicable. Clear? Yes, sir. Next, one more table. Threshold limit for registration for supplier of services. So you are supplying any services, or suppliers of ice cream, edible oils, pan masala, and tobacco and manufactured tobacco products. So if you are the supplier of these products, then 10 lakh limit in case of MMNT. For all other states and union territory, it is 20 lakh, guys. 20 lakh. Clear? Yes. Notes. Service suppliers are not eligible for exemption limit of 40 lakh because it is only for the exclusive supplier of goods. Clear? Sir, I am supplying goods as well as services. For me, what is the limit? 10 or 20 only, not 40. Because 40 is only for those who is supplying only goods. Only one service they can provide, that is loans and advances, which is given in explanation. Okay, next. All service provider, whether supplying intrastate or interstate or through electronic commerce operator, will be exempt from obtaining GST registration provided their aggregate turnover does not exceed 20 lakh. So if you are a service suppliers within the states or outside the state, for you always 20 lakh or 10 lakh limit will be applicable, guys. Agree na? Yes, sir. Because even if you are supplying the services outside the state, section 23 has given for exemption for you if your turnover is up to 20 lakh or 10 lakh. So for any services, whether supplied within the state or outside the state, the limit is always 20 lakh or 10 lakh, guys. Clear? Next, the last one. Mandatory registration is required only for those e-commerce operator who are required to collect tax at source or who is liable to pay tax under section 9(5). For them, the mandatory registration is required for electronic commerce operator, which is as per section 24, guys. Clear? So this two table actually will give the summary of whatever limit we have discussed, 10, 20, 40, when exactly. Clear, guys? We also have a number of examples. We will go through that. One example we had left here, that is fourth one. We will just go through it. Then we will go to the next examples. Fourth one. Deshbandhu is an agriculturist engaged in cultivation of wheat in his field in the state of Punjab. He was exclusively engaged in supply of wheat cultivated in his field in the previous year. So he is only doing cultivation. So is he supposed to get registered? No, sir. Thus, he was not liable for registration as he was exclusively engaged in the supply of produce out of cultivation of land, guys, as per section 23(1)(b). Now, in the current year, he decides to start trading in rice, not growing, trading in rice apart from supplying his wheat produce. His turnover in the current year is 32 lakh from supply of wheat produced and 9 lakh from trading in rice. So supply of wheat is exempt under GST. Okay, supply of agricultural produce actually is exempt under GST. So 32 lakh is exempt supply and 9 lakh from trading of rice is taxable under GST. So what is your aggregate turnover? Aggregate turnover includes exempt supply now. 32 is exempt supply, but 9 lakh is taxable supply. So are you exclusively providing only cultivation of land? No. So for you, 23 exemption is not applicable. Yes. Since he is engaged in trading of rice also, is not covered under section 23 above, the threshold limit for registration applicable to a person exclusively engaged in supply of goods. So both rice and wheat, both are goods. So you are exclusively engaged in supply of goods in the state of Punjab. So what is the threshold limit applicable for you? 40 lakh. Have you crossed 40 lakh? The aggregate turnover of Deshbandhu in the current year is 41 lakh. Sir, how? Aggregate turnover includes exempt supply. Yeah? So exempt supply 32 lakh plus taxable supply 9 lakh. So what is your turnover? 41 lakh. Should you get registered? Yes, you have to get registered, which exceeds the threshold limit. Thus, is liable to get registration. Interesting point. Agree? See, these are the complicated things which can come in your exams. So in my classes, in my examples, I have covered all the possible scenarios, guys, so that you will be thorough with the provisions. If you are strong in the concepts, guys, let any questions be asked in the exams. You will be able to answer. Clear? My intention is to make you guys strong with the concepts. That is why various examples from different angles I have covered it. Clear? These are some of the examples. Still, there are few examples. So come to this, the examples which are after this tables. So here lot of if and buts are there. So please pay attention. Means what if it is like this? What if it is like that? So 2-3 angles I have covered it for each examples. So please be attentive, guys. Example 1, Prithviraj of Assam. So Assam also might play a role here. Is exclusively engaged in intrastate supply of shoes. So shoes means goods. Okay, see, observe how the things, whatever, each thing, wherever you feel something is important, try to give your attention there. His aggregate turnover in the current financial year is 22 lakh. Okay, should he get registered? In view of the discussion in the above paras, the applicable threshold limit for registration for Prithviraj in the given case is 40 lakh. So for Assam, 40 lakh only. Yeah, because out of the 10 states which is excluded, Assam is not there. You can check. Assam is not there. Okay, thus, he is not liable to get registered because the threshold limit applicable for him is 40 lakh and his aggregate turnover is 22 lakh. So he is not supposed to get registered. And shoes, he is supplying goods. So it is understood that 40 lakh limit is applicable for him, guys. Clear? Okay, now, if case. If in the above example, all other things remaining the same, Prithviraj is exclusively engaged in supply of pan masala, which is excluded from 40 lakh limit. Okay, instead of shoes. So instead of shoes, he is supplying pan masala. So for pan masala, it is a good? Yes, but 40 lakh limit is not applicable. He will not be eligible for higher threshold limit of 40 lakh and the applicable threshold limit for registration in the given case will be 20 lakh. For him, 40 lakh is not applicable. So he is from Punjab. What is the limit applicable for him? 20 lakh. As Punjab is as he is from Assam. So for Assam, what is the threshold limit? Normal state. For registration, it is a normal state, 20 lakh limit. Thus, Prithviraj will be liable to get registered because threshold limit applicable for him is 20 lakh. What is his turnover? 22 lakh. Should he get registered? Yes, he has to get registered. Okay. One more scenario here. If instead of pan masala, Prithviraj is exclusively engaged in supply of taxable services, is supplying services. Even in that case, 40 lakh limit is not applicable because 40 lakh is only for exclusive supplier of goods. The applicable threshold limit for registration will again be 20 lakh only. Or if Prithviraj is engaged in supply of both goods as well as services, you are supplying both goods as well as services. What is the threshold for you? 40 lakh is again not applicable because 40 lakh is only for those who is supplying only goods. Clear? So the applicable threshold limit for registration will be 20 lakh. So in that case, he is liable to get registered. If he is supplying services or goods along with services, 40 lakh limit is not applicable for you, irrespective of from which state you are. Notification itself is not applicable for you. In that case, you are from Assam means normal state, 20 lakh limit is applicable and you are liable to get registered as your aggregate turnover in the year is 22 lakh, which has already crossed 20 lakh. Okay. Next, coming to second example. Shivaji of Telangana. Telangana, one of the state which is excluded from the notification. TP. So T stands for what? Telangana. Okay. Is exclusively engaged in the intrastate supplies of toys. So toys is a goods. Its aggregate turnover in the current financial year is 22 lakh. So what is the limit applicable, guys? Come on. 20 lakh, not 40. Since Shivaji is making taxable supplies from Telangana, he will not be eligible for higher threshold limit available in case of exclusive supply of goods. So the applicable threshold limit for registration for Shivaji in the given case is 20 lakh. So Telangana is falling where? In this category. It is falling here. So notification is not applicable for them. It has been excluded. Totally 10 states are excluded from notification. Telangana is one of them. Thus, he is liable to get registered. So his turnover is already 22 lakh, which has crossed 20 lakh. He has to get registered. Next, if in the above example, all other things remaining same, Shivaji is exclusively engaged in supply of services instead of toys. Again, the limit applicable for him will be 20 lakh. He has to get registered, guys. Okay, sir. Next, further, if Shivaji is engaged in supply of both goods as well as services, in that case also, what is the turnover applicable for him? 20 lakh. And should he get registered? Yes, he has to get registered. Yeah. Yes. Next, third one, Ashoka of Manipur special category states for GST is exclusively engaged in intra-state supply of paper. So paper is a goods, but is threshold limit of 40 lakh applicable for you? No, because out of the 10 states which are excluded from the notification, one of the state is Manipur. All the 4 special category states are excluded actually from the notification. Okay. Its aggregate turnover in the current financial year is 12 lakh. Since Ashoka is making taxable supplies from Manipur, which is special category state, the applicable threshold limit for him is 10 lakh. And that 40 lakh limit is also not applicable for him. So he has to get registered as his turnover has already crossed 10 lakh, guys. Next. If in the above example, all other things remaining same, Ashoka is exclusively engaged in supply of services instead of paper, not instead of paper. It's actually instead of paper, not toys. The applicable threshold limit for registration will still be 10 lakh. Whether you are supplying goods or services, if you are from Manipur, it is always 10 lakh for you, which is out of MMNT. Thus, Ashoka will be liable to get registered under GST. Next, further, if Ashoka is engaged in supply of both taxable goods and services, so both is providing, again the threshold limit applicable is 10 lakh only. So in simple guys, for MMNT, that is total 4 states, special category states for registration, it is always 10 lakh. It is always 10 lakh. So if you are supplying goods, okay. If you are supplying services, okay. If you are supplying goods along with services, okay, 10 lakh. But if you are supplying the goods outside the state, no limit is applicable for you. Other than handicraft goods and goods made by craftsmen, if you are supplying outside the state, no limit at all is applicable for you. You have to get mandatory registration. Clear? Yes. Next, let us go to the 4th example. Raghav of Jammu Kashmir is exclusively engaged in intra-state supply of ready-made garments. Its turnover in the current financial year, so Jammu Kashmir, normal states. It is not a special state here under GST, means for registration. Its turnover in the current financial year from Jammu Kashmir showroom is 28 lakhs. It has another showroom in Tripura, special state, with a turnover of 11 lakh in the current financial year. So totally 28 plus 11, 39. Since Raghav is engaged in supplying garments from one of the special category states, that is Tripura, the threshold limit applicable for him is 10 lakh. Even if you are operating in one special state, for you the limit applicable would be 10 lakh, guys. So you are having business in Jammu Kashmir and Tripura. So Tripura is one of the special category states. So what is the threshold limit applicable for you? 10 lakh. Have you crossed it? Yes, because your turnover, aggregate turnover, you can see 28 plus 11, 39. You already crossed it. Further, Raghav is liable to get registered under GST in both Jammu Kashmir and Tripura, as his aggregate turnover has already crossed the threshold limit. And here in this case, what is the aggregate turnover means? Aggregate turnover is equal to 28 plus 11, which is equal to 39 lakhs. Jammu Kashmir is not special states for registration purpose. Okay, actually, see why I have tried to use the name of the state is there are chances that you may get confused, guys, because Assam, Jammu Kashmir and all is a special state as per Article 279A, but it has been excluded for the purpose of special states under registration. Even under composition also, Assam and Jammu Kashmir is treated as normal state only. Clear? So you may get confused. That is why I have drawn all this and I have told, okay, out of exactly the total states, what states are covered under composition scheme, what states are covered under registration scheme, what states are excluded from notification. All this, try to remember the name of the states, because see, if they want to ask the tough question, see in the exam, all the questions will not be tough, guys. Clear? So there will be a proportion. For example, 30 to 40% of the questions will be easy. Another 30% will be an average. Remaining 30 to 40% might be tough, or I can call it as challenging. Clear? So those questions can come on any topic. We don't know. So you have to be ready for the toughest thing also. Let them see. If they ask easy, yes, you are lucky, you can answer easily. Clear? Sometimes they ask very easy question. So even on this topic, sometimes easy questions are asked. Clear? I'm not telling, but what I am doing is I am making you people ready to the ultimate. Okay, if by chance what if they ask tough questions, you should be knowing it now, because in case of registration they can play around with the name of the states. They can play around with the name of the states and the limit, registration limit. They can frame any tough question on this, guys. But I have explained each and everything. Hope you guys have got clear-cut clarity on this, and even this table, example, everything will help you to have clear-cut understanding. Okay, when exactly 10 lakh, 20 lakh or 40 lakh? Yeah, because they can frame any tough questions on this topic, guys. Yeah, other things are easy. Only this limit, when exactly what limit is applicable, is a bit challenging. And it also has connections with other topics. So it is important, guys, to be knowing it in clear. Fine. So we'll stop it here. Was bit lengthy session here. So yes, it requires, I wanted to cover all these three sections together, 22, 23, 24. When you guys are also studying, please don't skip any section. Sir, 24 is tough. Let me skip on that. Don't do it. Because only when you know all these three sections together, you will be able to answer exactly whether a person is liable to get registered or not. Yeah. So all these three sections has to be studied together, guys. Fine. Chalo. So we have covered section 22, 23 and 24 in this video. So we'll stop it there. We'll continue the remaining in the next video, guys. Until then, take care, study well, guys. Bye-bye.